Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And Jason's going to kick it off for us on explaining elements of building knowledge.
So as we think about building knowledge, we have a framework we like to introduce here at Education Elements, and it follows the rhythm of Spark, Expand, Practice, Plan. The idea of a spark is an understanding of why the idea matters and bringing your firsthand experiences to the table. Expand is when we get a little bit more divergent, we explore resources and we really deepen our knowledge together. And then practice, we're going to take these ideas in a smaller, safer way before they're deployed at scale and really prepare them for how we would implement them. The idea of plan is theory of action or the hypothesis that's being tested to determine the level of supports that are needed. So as we get into our spark, my youngest is a 10-year-old, and it's been a long time since she pulled a kid's book off the shelf in the evening. And the other night she pulled off Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And it's a beautiful story about the future and opportunities. And it also got us thinking of other kids' stories that could use as a spark. And we thought of Three Little Pigs, and we wanted to use a little bit of the huff and puff and blow your house down metaphors and carry those into this theme.
So if you're thinking about the Three Little Pigs, we're thinking about House of Straws. So House of Straws is really where the system could fall apart easily. A slight little blow and it would fall apart. House of Sticks is really thinking about areas that you have some strength in, but there are places where it might be able to be a little bit stronger. And then House of Bricks is that it's rock solid and there's no blowing that house down. You feel really great about it. So some of the things that you might be thinking about, for example, could be like, have school teams communicated what distant learning looks like, sounds like, feels like? You could have one part be like, yeah, our school teams are really strong, so maybe it's bricks. With our teachers, it's more sticks, or vice versa. So different components can fall into different parts.
And as we think about how to best support our schools with distance learning, we realize that we are designers and co-creators, that we must apply an equity lens to all of our work, and that we are planning for responsive supports, and that we're planning for change, not perfection. And I want to introduce the framework here. And there's always a step zero where we have to start with ourselves and recognize that we have our own bias, power, and privilege that comes into the decision-making and the influence that we have. We need to understand that about ourselves before doing this work with our teams. Step one is connect, and just really understanding the challenge. And so as we're engaging in this connect phase, we're looking at who is most impacted by the challenges we're observing in distance learning right now. Step two is including, elevating the voices of all stakeholders, especially those stakeholders at the margins. And we recognize that too often our systems and the work we do together, we're designing for rather than with the people they serve. We think that to move quickly, we have to move alone. And we're doing that in a bit of isolation. The opportunity is really to design with the people for the solution that is going to be serving them. It feels harder, it feels more complicated on the front end, but it is a step we must take. A few of the questions you want to tee up is voices have been traditionally excluded. Who are your teachers that might be at the margins? How would we work together differently to improve the virtual experience? And then what would successful change look like? Then as we move into to step three, this is about expanding collaboration as we create, building engagement in your virtual learning community and designing with your users rather than for them. A couple of key takeaways in this is opportunities for inclusion of staff in the design process. A great idea here is to kind of crowdsource their ideas, distill them up into a few different categories, build that prototypes with them, and then get feedback on it. And then clear communication is the ask from them on how they're going to cascade information, both in the creation phase and ongoing afterward. So the decisions that you're making, the trade-offs, the process they went through, what it felt like for them to be a part of that, and why they believe in the solution and the redesign.
So our goal was to take all that we've learned in the spring and in the summer, and even what we're seeing in these coming weeks as schools have really kicked off. What exactly do district leaders, school leaders, classroom leaders need to be mindful of as they're trying to take in all of these different elements and really structuring their approach? So what we created was this distance learning checklist. It's a very robust resource, and we're just going to be touching on 4 of about the 6 topics. So the 4 that we'll be touching on today are relationships and engagement, how we're approaching our curriculum instruction, our technology capacity and supports, and then our communication protocols. So we think whether you're, again, a teacher, someone who's implementing, whether or not your district has a strong communication plan, that does not mean that your classroom can have a strong communication plan and protocols as well, that you may start to be able to model out, share with your school. And we know from our perspective, strong school practices definitely get shared amongst the district as well. So you may create that practice and protocol that could impact things at another level.
We also wanted to share with you that we also have more webinars throughout September and October and going into November as well. And we hope to see you there.